Good evening. I have a topic that I'd like to talk about. It's about flood versus spotlight consciousness. I'm going to be reading transcripts of what I said earlier. It was a very good explanation by Alan Watts that we do have a certain kind of specialization in consciousness. To have a spotlight consciousness where you focus on one spot, seeing reality through that spotlight, that narrow field of light, and ignoring the rest that are in the dark. Now, if one can be aware of the floodlight consciousness, one soon will realize that the true self is the universe, not an ego, not an image that's locked up in the back of skin. If one were to think or to feel in this way, you feel like you belong inside, and therefore anything outside is confronting you. The natural response is then to be hostile against it, to conquer, to tremble over it, to destroy. The world is just a game. It's a game of people, just like there's a game of birds and a game of fish. When I was born as a human, I'm presented with the game of humans. I wasn't presented with the game of humans by my parents. Instead, we've been told that we are all on probation, and if we didn't behave, something terrible would happen inside. Most of us carry on this belief until old age, because one is never really out from probation if one feels that they exist inside a bag of skin. Because the conquest against the outside will never happen as much as you think that you're inside. For every inside there is an outside. Just like a coin, there's a front and a back. There cannot be an outside without an inside. A magnet has a north pole and a south pole. If you were to chop up the magnet, one side of the magnet, thinking that you will eliminate the south pole, but the south pole will reappear when you chop it. It will always be there. So whoever the person who is under the illusion that they need to conquer the outside, it's not going to work. It's only going to make the outside reappear again. Therefore, one would never be happy or satisfied. Spotlight consciousness makes us forget who we really are. We were brainwashed the very moment that we were born into society. Just as if the spotlight can never find its sources. It can never shine itself with the light to see itself. So humans will never know what is the source of our consciousness. There's more to the spotlight than what we see. The source is also part of it. But we tend to take it for granted, the source. We forget about it. We have no idea how our fingernails grow, or how our hair grows, or how our wound heals. We don't know. We take it for granted that it happens. One seeks the next interesting thing, the things that changes. But we forget the things that does not change, like space, emptiness. But it is part of reality. If you miss that out, it's like missing the North Pole in a magnet. You will never understand the magnet. With a spotlight consciousness, one is likely to optimize with the goal to achieve securement inside the bag of skin. But what you're securing for does not exist. And you're only looking at life in that way. It will be very difficult for you. When one is chasing after money, it's a superficial goal. To spend your whole living moment chasing after a superficial goal does little to your own understanding of reality, that you are the universe. To chase after status and not to realize that status is not permanent. It's not something that you can bring with you. What is it like? What is the method to adopt flood-like consciousness? There's no starting point. I don't know the starting point. But I can see it is very difficult for a person who has been using spotlight consciousness all his life, and to help the person to switch to a different state of consciousness. There must be triggers that's specific to the person, or the use of a catalyst like weed. I do know the ingredients. But I do not know which is the starting point. A good starting point probably is to look up, because we all forget that we can actually look up and to see a different world. By looking up, we are able to project a bigger picture of our reality. In that way, you start to see things that you don't normally see. And when you see it, you can feel it. Take in that observation and introspect it. Write it down, verbalize it. Continue this cycle of observing and introspecting. Soon you'll realize that you're doing things that you do not normally do, because you heighten your sensitivity to reality. And when you're sensitive, you suddenly realize you have 5 spotlights instead of 1 spotlight, or maybe 10. You start to see more things than you not normally would, because 10 spotlight reveals a lot more, right? The more you make this as a habit, a new state of consciousness with the right environment, you can cultivate a new state of consciousness for human beings. It is possible. It is possible. Just like the right ingredients produce the right medicine, the right temperature, the right sunlight produce the right apples. Flood-like consciousness makes you feel like you're the universe, because there's infinite amount of spotlights. It's so bright. So bright that I don't know what to say about that. There's no word to describe what it means to be infinitely bright. It's meaningless.